Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I am exhausted. Since my media tour session has concluded, I have been non-stop writing scripts, editing videos, getting ready for the embargo that will be up on October 13th. I plan to have 22 videos ready to release that day at least, and I've already started thinking, maybe there's one I could do on this or that, or... And so, yeah, I'm living, but barely. So let's get through this Q&A so I can get back to working on those videos. Before we do, thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. I remember seeing throughout the week, my memory is a little fuzzy, but I do recall seeing... We had some new patrons. Yes, we had Margot, a new standard patron. I have a copyright claim on a video. That's in my email. So we had Caleb as an elite sponsor. And then we had a new baseline sponsor with that of Audette. So thank you to those for adding to the list. Thank you to all of you who support over there. You get nothing special for being a part of Patreon. It's just there because people ask me, hey, is there another way I could support? And I'm like, yeah, I guess there's this. And so if you're over there and you're supporting, thanks. Because I don't expect that of you, because all my content's free for you to enjoy here, as always. And on top of that, thank you to our patrons of darkness, Khuja on Jenova and Kurenai Oni, who've gone above and beyond. Thank you to all of you, and thank you to those of you just tuning in to answer or ask a question. Anyway, with that, let's get into that Q&A so I can get back to some other videos. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hey, Haps. Hey. My static is planning on clearing the 2 new extreme trials released together on Endwalker. Right now we are unsure if the loot is progression bis for the first Savage tier. With the possibility of getting 1 to 2 weeks of normal raid gear, I'd love to know what to expect in terms of gearing up. Is crafted gear just straight up better? Can we assume that progression bis will be a combination of crafted, extreme, and normal raid gear? It's our first time doing week 1 progression as a group, so I'd appreciate any help in regards to gearing up and getting ready. So the answer is that it largely depends on itemization. The item level of the weapon, the accessories, will be enough to make it potential bis, but if the itemization on those things is terrible, then you're not going to consider it. So if the, I guess we don't know what the trials are. If one of the trial accessories, like the ring, is like skill speed tenacity or something for tanks, and that's not good enough, then you'd of course jump at the opportunity to replace it with either normal mode loot or crafted gear. In the same vein, if a piece of crafted gear has terrible substats, then whether or not it's actually bis is going to depend on what it's up against as well. So it's just a matter of taking the piece that does have the best itemization and weighing them against each other to know. Unfortunately, you won't really be able to have much time with this information. So for the first 2 weeks, you'll just be looking to get the accessories from the EX trial and the weapon, of course, from the other one. On weeks 3 and 4, you'll be looking to get any normal mode loot that has, by default, really good itemization for you. Now, of course, you have a very limited amount of normal mode loot you can actually grab, so you're going to want to look at all the possibilities for the pieces before making a decision. Don't just go in and take the ring and take an accessory here and take a piece for the body here. Don't do that. Just go through, clear it, then go back and look at what all the loot actually has on it before you start making decisions. And then the following week, take a look at the crafted gear. If you see clear improvements with pentamelds, then go right for it. If you're not planning on pentamelding, then the decision is even easier. Just take whatever actually has better stats than what you've already picked up at that point, better substats in particular. So the answer is a little bit of everything, but it's going to take some deduction on what stats you actually need in order to be the most effective. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Good day, Mrhappy. Good day indeed. Fellow foodie here, what is something you love to eat that you would rather have someone else make you? Mine's pretty much any Chinese cuisine. Love watching your videos. Your tutorials are some of my favorites. Can't wait to hear what you bring us from the media tour. So thank you for the compliments at the end. I almost just trailed off and started thinking about this. I think I'm a firm believer that almost any time somebody else is cooking for you, it just automatically tastes better. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone cooking for you is a world-class chef or has any culinary experience at all, but assuming that it hits the right notes, it's seasoned, it's cooked properly, I almost feel like when somebody else makes me something, it just automatically tastes better. So the answer is almost anything. But I think if I had to put one thing, it's probably just fish in general. Like when I cook my own fish, I'm pretty pleased with it, but I don't do what a lot of other places will do with fish. Like it's just better when they do it. So any form of fish, whether it be swordfish, salmon, tuna, I think whenever I have that from somebody else, that is always an experience I'm looking for. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. Hey, hope you're doing alright. I'm doing alright. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. My question for you this week is, will Reaper and Sage have Palace of the Dead weapons on release? Have a wonderful week, and don't forget to get some sleep. Can't make any promises on the back end. This has actually been a big question, because it's assumed by a lot of people that the answer is yes, because they haven't made any comment about it, so we actually don't have an answer to this. Because, you know, they can do it, and if they can do Palace of the Dead, then it just makes sense that they'd have to have just like a glowy, reskinned weapon made for not even just Palace, but also Heaven on High. But there are some people who question whether or not that we will actually have them, only because it's now content that goes up to level 60, whereas Reaper and Sage start at level 70, 10 levels higher than this content. I think it would be a huge mistake if they didn't, and I think they know that. So while we don't have an answer, I'd put my money on yes, that they will have Palace of the Dead weapons on release. It just wouldn't make sense not to. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good morning. I hope you're doing well. Hello, good morning, and well, it's evening for me, but now good morning to you. And I am doing swell. I've been playing the Stranger in Paradise demo too. Oh, I love it so much. And I'm really enjoying it. However, on the Garland fight, I noticed that my fire spells are not breaking his ice sword anymore like it did in demo 1. Am I doing something wrong or just need to use more fires? Blazes aren't breaking it either, and the ice sword is quite powerful since it can basically one-shot you. Yeah, it should take 3 shots. It did that in demo 1. It took 3 shots as well, though that number did change if you casted a Fyra or a Fyraga. I believe it only took 2 fire spells if you did any tier higher, but you still needed to hit it a second time. I think also, I don't remember if you need to hit the sword, like if you hit Garland in his back or on the side of his body that isn't wielding the sword. I don't recall if that made a difference, but it's definitely still breakable because I did it on my own fight in Demo 2. In fact, I defaulted to doing that, so definitely possible, but it's either that it has more stamina or it's looking for something closer to a direct hit on the sword itself. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hope you're doing good. And sorry for the wordiness. This isn't that wordy. In my opinion, it's not. Look, that's all it is. I finished recently E12S with my static, and we've been going through the previous tiers 5 to 8. I find it disappointing the fights are so cheesable with Biss. On the other hand, I think reprogging them with minimum item level would be too time consuming. For this reason, I'm wishing they could add a custom item level sync for older fights that we could simulate going through the fights with a more balanced difficulty. I think it would help with the longevity of the raids, but I don't know if any other players would find it really. I'm going to be honest with you, you just need to do minimum item level. Adding a custom item level sync when we have minimum... So we have a lot of alternatives to this already. So one big thing to remember is that a custom item level sync would still sync your gear down and thus very likely just remove all effects of your materia. So that's not exactly an ideal option, but I mean, if you were going to min item level anyway, like use the setting, then the same thing would happen. Option number 2 is to grab a set of old crafted gear. That stuff is super easy to make. If anyone on your group is a crafter, it won't take them longer than an hour or 2 to even just make a whole set for everyone. Not to mention those pieces are just generally cheaper now. So that's also an option, is to just get what is the equivalent of week 1 Biss. Basically a full set of crafted gear with melds. And none of this stuff is all that difficult or time consuming. So, but the biggest thing here is that so it seems as though obviously you're overgeared. You know, you're using item level 530 stuff and you're going back a tier and demolishing it, which is to be expected. But then you're also worried that reprogging them with minimum item level would be too time consuming. So you are looking very specifically for an item level that is not the minimum item level, but is a raid appropriate custom item level. I'm going to assume that that's technologically feasible for them, but in terms of the development time to put into that for the, how would I put it, for the usability or the frequency of use, or how many people would actually use that, I'm going to say it's probably not going to happen, nor do I think it really makes sense to happen. Gear is so easy to get in Final Fantasy XIV to really get to any item level you want. The alternatives of taking old gear or even just unequipping accessories, I mean, it's all there. So I don't think they'll ever do this, and I honestly think that if you're finding that you need something right in between the two, you should probably just suck it up and go minimum item level anyway, because that's going to be a proper raid experience, and I don't think that it would take as long as you think it would. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Salutations, Mr. Happy. Salutations indeed. With the stat squish, do you think we'll see pre-Stormblood content retuned to account for the increased potencies and extra DPS boosting stats introduced in 4.0? Specifically, things like the Realm-Reborn 24 mins and Thor Normal, which have been turned into facial encounters. No. They're probably never going to go back and retune all that stuff. All they're doing with the stat squish is rebalancing all of the values. They can basically put everything through a calculation, and all of it should adjust so that it is proper, I suppose. So no, they're definitely not going to go back. Because if they do it for one thing, they got to do it for everything. And if they do it for everything, they'll never get it done. So that's definitely going to be a no. I don't think you'll ever see this. Nor do I think they care. It's old content. I don't think they care enough to try to make it more challenging or not face roll. They're like, whatever. People are getting through it. Just move on. Go do the new stuff. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good day. Hope you're doing well, sir. Same to you. My question is, what is your thought process on not being able to gather or purchase HQ items and crafting? Do you think it will affect the crafter that does not have the funds to buy all the high-end materia to pentameld the gear to a point where only NQ items will be needed? No, because here's the big thing. Only the base materials that you can gather from the open world, whether it be, I guess if our monsters, we don't even know if they do bicolored gemstones again. That doesn't even matter. Those are the only things that will not be HQ. You can still HQ the intermediate materials. You could purchase the intermediate materials or the intermediary materials that you need to get to the final result. And then the final result can still be HQ'd. So the only thing that's really up for question is the difficulty of crafting high quality intermediary materials. And the difficulty of that is not high as it is. So I don't suspect that this really changes anything. I'd assume that getting rid of high quality is to reduce overall item bloat, which by design, with the way the game tries to read information, kind of lightens the load on the servers and makes it easier for them to save data on a more consistent rate, which they already do, but it just makes it easier on the whole system. Just less items overall, less things clogging up inventory space, all sorts of reasons. And whether or not that pans out, totally different story. But those would just be a few reasons why I would imagine they would do it in the first place. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hope you're doing well. Same to you. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on Beastmaster possibly being a future limited job, a la Blue, if you think limited jobs are just dead. I love playing Blue and would love some more super quirky jobs. I get that Blue isn't super popular. So, backing things up a little bit, they have name-dropped Beast Tamer specifically as a potential limited job alongside Puppet Master back when they initially announced Blue Mage. Now, that wasn't confirmation that they were going to do it, but it was basically the thought of, like, these are kind of those, as you've said, quirky jobs that don't really fit neatly into what people's job fantasies are for it. So we'd have to make them kind of their own thing like we did with Blue Mage. Not to mention, in a recent interview, Matsuno even asked Yoshida if they could do Beastmaster, and Yoshida was like, wait, you put Lion in the game. You probably wanted me to do that. That's why you put Lion in, so people would keep asking me for Beastmaster. And they had a good laugh about it, and it was a fun time. So the answer is all the signs point to yes, but your final point is something that is very much a deterrent here. We don't really know, we don't have the numbers for the actual popularity of Blue Mage when the content is brand new, after the content's been away for a while, and thus what their sort of perception is on doing future limited jobs. It's entirely possible that at some point they determine that the limited job adventure was a complete failure, and they do rework Blue Mage to not be the kind of job it is now, and to instead fit into those traditionalisms that they wanted to avoid with it in the first place. Maybe they decide that Beastmaster just shouldn't be a limited job because Blue Mage wasn't popular enough. They leave Blue Mage as is, but rework Beastmaster to not be a limited job, but still not really fulfill those job fantasies that people kind of envision for it, especially the Final Fantasy XI players. So there's a whole bunch of question marks on this topic, and there's nothing to point us in any sort of definitive direction, state of mind, state of thinking from the developers. So we'll have to wait. I would be okay with it either way, especially if it's like a Pokemon style limited job, because I love catching shinies. So give me shinies to catch in Final Fantasy XIV. I'll never buy another Pokemon game. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. You can hear how much I've been recording because I'm trying to keep my voice to a more subtle level, but even then you can hear it start to kind of recede a little bit from all the talking. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hope you're doing all right. Hope you're doing all right as well. I got into this wonderful game back in November of 2019, and I'm excited to be a part of the expansion launch. I think I've heard you mention you're holding onto your materia so you can transmute it at the start of Endwalker. That I am. Can you elaborate on how to do this and what the expected results are? I recently looked into my Chocobo saddlebag and realized that I've accumulated over 3,000 level 7 and 8 crafting material. Jesus Christ! Wait, crafting? Okay, hold on. We gotta have a lot of conversations right here. So, number one, the reason I'm doing it, I'm holding on to a lot of combat materia because I'm going to transmute the 8s, because if you transmute a tier, there's a chance that when you put the 5 materia in, that the one you get back is actually a tier up. So if I put in grade 8 materia, I can get grade 9 materia on day 1, start selling it before that many people have it, make some big bank. You, however, are sitting on a different type of gold mine, because crafting and gathering materia, regardless of tier, very often has a place of value when it comes to crafters. They will use a lower tier materia if it means they can get exactly the amount of stats they want and have an easier time doing the overmelds themselves. Now, 8s obviously fall a little bit out of that category, but if 8s aren't that expensive, you can transmute those into 9s, which will likely be very valuable. Your 7s might just be worth keeping as is. Because you're sitting on crafting and gathering materia, you're going to have to play things a little bit more cautiously, because I would not recommend blindly transmuting those when they could be incredibly valuable. 3,000 crafting materia from extraction? Oh, you're gonna be rich if you don't use those. That's it. Just go buy the house. Just go do it. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Ahoy, Happy. Hello. It's been a while since I asked questions of a bonus of that sweet newish Tola doll. No. 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 Only one, but longer question for you today. TLDR, do you need to have all the crafters at 90 to repair your own level 90 gear? That's not a long question. Reasoning? What? Okay, let me be clear. I don't need any reasoning because the answer is very simple. The answer is you don't need any jobs at 90 to repair. Repairing requires you to be 10 levels under the maximum level in order to repair. That means your level 80 crafters can repair level 90 gear, just like my level 70 crafters prior were able to repair level 80 gear. What you do need is one singular crafting job at level 90 in order to overmeld your own gear. It used to be you needed all the different ones for the different types of pieces, but they changed that in Shadowbringers, and now you just need one. Otherwise, you are A-OK. Level 80 is enough. You shouldn't need... don't get me wrong. We have another live letter. They could change it. There's nothing to point to that yet, so I assume you'll be able to repair everything with your level 80 crafters. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi. My question might be a lightning round. We'll see. But I've been thinking about what we know of the Loporrits from their roots in 4, where they are the Hummingways. Would it be feasible to hypothesize whether they're going to be a crafter, beast tribe, I mean... You could hypothesize, or you could just not, because I hypothesized about the Shadowbringers beast tribes, because they showed us, they said beast tribes, they showed us 3 tribes in the fan fests for Shadowbringers, and I went, oh, those are our 3 beast tribes. You know, there's probably 2 combat ones and a crafting one. That went completely on its head. We got the battle one with just the pixies. Then they said, here's the Keekerns, and they're gathering. And then they said, here's the crafting one with the dwarves. Like, it was like nothing like what I saw. So, could they be one? I'd hope so, because I want more side quests with the Loporrits, even though I'm sure they'll give us plenty. But which one they are? No, because in Final Fantasy IV, they don't really do anything that fancy. Maybe they're the gathering one, in all honesty, but who knows? Who knows? Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hi. Hope you're well. You too. 2 questions for you today, if you'd be so kind, and I could be. 1. Class Lock, Disciple of Hand and Land Gear. Do you think they'll ever remove the restrictions on using these glams for other crafters and gatherers? There are so many good-looking items from the earlier levels I want to use, but I can't because they are only equipable by other classes. Should they? Yes. Should I believe that they will, based on how they've done this before? No. They've given me no reason to suspect they'll change this, so that would be my prediction. And 2, high-res textures, especially with the PS5 client. How likely do you think they will make one available, if at all? If they even have high-res material to work with at this point for the older stuff, or they'd have to redo it. Yeah, this also probably not. The soonest you'd see any sort of texture update would be in some sort of engine or DX, like them going to DX12 for a client or something. And even then, it'd be pretty minimalistic. The big thing with doing a high-res texture is they can't just slap it and say they can't. There's nothing they can just flip on. They need to make high-res textures for the tens of thousands of items and surfaces and houses and furnishings and everything in the game. And let me tell you, they ain't about to do that. No, there's way too many items, and they're probably already kind of nervous about being a couple months behind because of everything that's been happening in the world the past couple of years. So I doubt this is even on their brains at all. But maybe if we get an engine update one day, they'll have been working on it for a long time when they get up to that point, and that's the only possibility I really see for it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. First, wait, more bears needed. Yeah, I said that last week. Listen, somebody made a comment about bears, and thus I made a comment about bears. Simple as that. Hey, Haps, how you doing? Yeah, the hello is after the bears in this case. I couldn't remember if we saw any positionals during the Reaper showcase. So from the live letter, Yoshida had actually hovered over a bunch of tooltips, so we did see positionals were on just a couple of skills, nothing too major. If so, as someone who struggles with melee jobs in general, I thought I'd ask a melee main. I wouldn't call myself a melee main. I main Dancer this entire last expansion, but I do have an expansion worth of Monk under my belt, and I do play it casually in Party Finder. How do you keep from frustration when you don't know how much the tank will pull? I find it really frustrating when I hit a mob and the tank stutter steps, so my second move doesn't hit. Just use long range attacks until you see the tank stop for sure. No, the biggest thing is you try to get ahead of the boss. So when a boss is being moved, if you try to follow from a max distance behind it, that's when what you just suggested will happen. So what you want to do is you want to be kind of in the hitbox or moving with it along its flank or trying to stay ahead of it, but you cannot follow behind a boss. Otherwise, what you've just said here is exactly what will happen. So it's not uncommon for me to maybe pop on Monk, Riddle of Earth, or True North, and just make sure that I'm always in range and hitting the boss. But that's what you're going to be looking for. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Good morning, good sir. Hi. So there's a mild confusion about the Monk PPCD. I've heard 40 seconds anytime someone mentions it, but the live letter it showed 45. Any clarification? Smaller side question, do you think Masterful Bits will be unlocked early enough to be usable in PALs? So I think we have hovered over tooltips from the live letter. I'd have to pull it up on the side here, but I remember seeing a bunch of Monk tooltips that were, basically he hovered over them in the live letter. And I'm trying to pull up the live letter VOD right now. And so we saw certain things about Monk's abilities that I'm pretty sure confirm it was 40, but I don't remember Blitz. I pulled it up over here. There's the Reaper section. There's the Monk section. Dragoon, Monk, Perfect Balance. Let's see. No, it's definitely 40. I'm looking at the live letter right now, and he just activated it, and he has the little number in the bottom left. I think he does also hover over it very briefly, but yeah, no, it's definitely 40 in the live letter. Oh, I think he just hovered over it here. Let me see. Let me see if I can catch a quick hover over, because he just did the part where he like uses all his gap closers. And I think in the process he hovered. Oh yeah, he definitely hovered over it for a second there. Hold on, we can do this. We can do this. This is what we do, by the way. This is what a lot of Final Fantasy XIV creators do. We look for frames in a live letter to see what he's hovered over. Yeah, he hovers over Perfect Balance, and it says 40 seconds. I'm looking at it on the live letter. But does he hover over Blitz? I don't remember if he does. I feel like he probably does. I don't remember. I'm sure somebody's already done all this legwork, but now you've got me in the sauce. So I'm trying to do it myself at the moment. No, there it gets used. Does he click it or does he use it? Show me the hover over, Yoshi P. I'm hovering through frames here, trying to find what it is you do. No, no. Does he click it here, or does he... Well, that doesn't answer the question. Oh, I think he just hovered over it. No, I think he hovers over the transformed version of the Blitz. Does it say a level? No, it doesn't say a level. He'd have to hover over it when it doesn't read when it just reads Masterful Blitz. He might at some point, but I guess I shouldn't really get hung up on it. Yeah, I don't remember what level it says that is, but Perfect Balance is definitely 40 seconds when he uses it in the live letter. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy, you doing good? I'm doing good. You doing good? I'm doing good. My question is about... Why are people so eager to get it in 14? Is it serious or is it a meme? I thought everyone hates Blitzball. Excluding me, I love Blitzball. I think this whole question is bait, but that being said, don't waste the time on Blitzball. It's here. Okay, let me give a more reasonable answer to this. Blitzball in 10 serves a purpose of being a minigame that has some serious unlocks behind it. Yes, you could metagame it and just try to play it by collecting NPCs, leveling them up, getting super strong. But generally, there's a method of getting through it, cheesing it, finding all the right teammates, and just being better. In Final Fantasy XIV, the reality of what happens with Blitzball is that, yes, you can probably recruit NPCs, but you're never going to have that one NPC that absolutely decimates everybody if you have it. Odds are that they would nerf that because very big chances are that it would have a PvP mode similar to what we have with Lords of Verminion. But unfortunately, in terms of obtained rewards, they'd probably have to hold bi-hourly Blitzball tournaments and weekly tournaments, and those are cheesed and beaten to death in the Gold Saucer, and they do not have rewards that, outside of very set collector obsessions, have any value whatsoever. They are nigh abandoned content outside of very, very small groups of individuals. Blitzball would be a massive amount of work to essentially give us something that would be abandoned within probably not even a month. So I'd rather they save the resources, save all of the just bullshittery, and just not do it. Alright, so I took a hot minute getting through a few of those questions, so I think that I am just going to lightning around the rest of them. Guys, I'm going to be real. Every single question that's about what do I think or what is my opinion about a job change that could potentially be happening or speculated, I won't answer. Strictly because I already know the answer. So I can't say things. There's no point in me trying to play dumb about it. So I don't even like answering some of the questions I did answer, but I made sure to use things from the live letter because we do have a ton of tooltips and information that come out of that. So that's all there's. Anything involved to jobs until the Media Tour stuff is done and out, I'm just ignoring them. I'm not acknowledging them. I'm not answering them. Then there's just a bunch that have replies already. Like one, there's like someone asking if I think they'll keep the jobs in each role reasonably even. Yeah, probably, but they'll still always be releasing more DPS than everything else. Then asking if like maybe another job can get a res. Again, I'm still just not a big fan of putting any more combat reses in the game. Somebody asked me what Media Tour is. It's essentially, as I said, a giant PR event where they invite people, content creators, media, to play on a build for a limited time and then produce articles or videos about their experiences there. A lot of people commenting on the shirt from last week. That's because I was doing some casting. I was doing some like commentating casting on Echo's Final Fantasy XIV event. So I dressed up nice for it. I wanted to make sure that it looked nice. Then there was one here. Like, what do you think, Dragoon? Well, when do you think for a Dragoon finally it will get a Nidhogg fused form when using Blood of the Dragon? I mean, we didn't see anything like that in the job extra, but it's questions like that I'm going to be not just going after very much. Looking extra spicy. What was your favorite raid or extreme trial? Raid was E8S, I think. Actually, I made a raid thing, but I don't remember what I said my favorite one was because I had a really weird way of grading it. But I had a lot of respect for E4 and E8 in that video. For extreme trials, definitely Cidus Sacrifice. Hands down, doesn't even need to be explained. I think most people understand for that. Was someone asking, is it that bad to not have something like a ranged physical DPS in a raid group? It's not the end of the world, but you do lose a flat 1% bonus to everyone's damage, which is not that incredible, but it's something, especially over the course of like a 10-11 minute fight. And you also lose their raid wide mitt, so there's that as well. A double caster is very normal, but 2 melee 2 caster for prog is uncommon, because you usually want every edge you can possibly get. But if you're not trying to beat it week 1, I'd say it doesn't matter that much. There was one here where it's about the trust system. I'm not kept up with all the info. I was wondering if they're going to continue the feature. Yeah, trusts they're probably going to have, it seems like based on their own comments, they're going to go back and do trusts for low-level content as well. So it'll always be something going forward, and they might even retroactively add it to older stuff. So yeah, you shouldn't have to worry about that at all. There's a speculation one, although that one's just about, do you think there's a hint for future limited jobs in the job action trailer? And I see the logic behind it, but no, I don't think so. Somebody asking, like, what are you most excited to ask? I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to ask at Media. They said FanFest, but I know they meant Media Tour. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to release a video about anything that I would get to ask, so I wouldn't be telling you that in advance anyway. And same with like something you're hoping to get answers on. Again, it's the same deal. You'll find out October 13th. What else do we have here? There was somebody asking about a new crafting class to build companions for dungeons. No, they're just gonna go with the trust system. They're not gonna try to intertwine any more systems. I think they've already learned their lesson with that. So, not to mention building a whole crafting class for that, kind of pointless. It'd almost be like a limited crafting class, if I can say that, because it has such a singular function that is available in such a limited scope of content that's effectively what you've suggested would be. It'd be a limited crafter in terms of its influence in the game. What type of videos will I be making for the Media Tour? My advice is to go back and look what I did for the old Media Tours, and that'll give you a lot of insight as to what I'll probably be doing going forward. Let's see. What do you think about the change of Summoner? Can't answer that. Although, to be fair, that's not like asking for specifics. It's like, do you think this will open things up? And I'm going to avoid those questions altogether. And then there was one where it's like, what time will the servers be up or the embargo be up? Servers and things like that are normally up super early. Embargoes are normally fairly early in the morning. But that's as much as you'll get out of me. I'm going to release all my videos at the same time. And do you need to be 71 for Pixies? No, you just need to be 70 for Pixies, thankfully. Then what else did we have? There's only 7 Mondays with Mr. Happy left before early access. I don't even know if I'm doing a Mondays with Mr. Happy that week, so be very, very warned about that. November 22nd, Mondays with Mr. Happy, because it may not happen at all. Somebody asking if eventually they'll change the Black Mage job gauge. I mean, probably eventually, but we've seen in the job action trailer that eventually is seemingly not now, outside of just adding that one extra thing that was on it in the job action trailer. Somebody asking about the number of areas. Where do I think the 6th area might be? The lunar subterrane. That is my guess. We still have those floating islands, like you said, which is zone number 5. But, I mean, my prediction has been the lunar subterrane, the heart of the moon, being its own zone, especially when Yoshida said something along the lines of, like, the surface, like, oh, the surface of the moon looks really cool, but that's only the surface. And then didn't say anything else. So I'm going to guess the actual inner machinations of the moon is a 6th zone. Let's see. What do I think the extreme mounts will be? Maybe Terminus Beasts? Yeah, sure, why not? I never really even think about it anymore, because I'm sure there's all sorts of mystical and mythical beasts out there that I don't even know exist, that they could just turn into mounts if they really wanted to. You know what I mean? Then there's the Beastmaster question. There's another, what do you think about the job actions in some way question in regards to Summoner and Pet AI. Let's see. There's a question asking about how people are chosen for media tours. I don't dare answer that because I do not work for Square Enix. So I do not know how they choose people. I'm sure I could probably wager a guess based on like traditional trends in the industry, but to say that there is one set convention and that there's a set way they decided, I can't. A, I can't because, again, I don't work for them. I don't know how they work. B, I wouldn't if I did because that would cost me my job in that case. And C, I don't want to come off as an authority on the matter when I'm not. I have never held a marketing, PR, or any sort of position that would give me insight into the decision-making process for that. There's the HQ item question. Any type of content that they could come out with, or do you think the end of things being new? They're always going to be trying new things. Whether or not they're new things you're interested in is a different story. Like Island Sanctuary is new. We don't have anything like that in the game. Is that something you're interested in? Probably not. You're probably never going to see a Mythic Plus system in this game. Between the difficulty and balancing the reward structure for it, in terms of the way our dungeons are actually built, there's really not a good way to do it in such a way that it is interesting and engaging for a long period of time, or the amount of effort that would have to go into it. It would basically have to be a tangential gearing experience, similar to what we have with like Eureka and Bozja, where your gear from outside just doesn't really even matter inside, but stuff that you get inside helps boost your stats while you are inside. And I don't think they're going to do that for just a Dungeon Plus system like Mythic Plus. I think they'd rather save that for exploration zones or deep dungeons themselves or something like that. That's the rebalancing question, the custom item level question, Stranger's Paradise 2 question, Palace of the Dead weapon question. Somebody asking about fishing, getting specific items compared to miner or botanist. I have no idea. I barely mine or batan, if you... But yeah, I'm saying batan. I'm not saying harvest. I barely harvest or mine as it is. I do not fish at all. I have no idea. So I am worthless. Somebody asking when 5.55 State of the Realm is. We did that already. So we're all good on that front. There's the food question. There's the Bis question. There's some comments about Bard stuff. And a clean damn shirt. And with that, that is going to be a wrap for this episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and ask me questions for next week's episode, which, mind you, will still not be before the embargo is up for Media Tour. So if you ask me a question about what I think, again, I'm just not going to answer it because I can't, because it's too potentially, I can't. What if I won't be the leaker? I won't be the leaker. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. And until then, take care.